To add custom hats or hairs to LEGO Batman 2, you will need a 3D modeling program, preferably Blender, and the GSC Generate tool, which is provided in the description. First, you need the model you'd like to put in the game. If you're looking for an official LEGO piece, you can check Mechabricks for it, although you will need an account to be able to export the model. Once you have the part you want, click on File at the top left, then Export, and then switch the format to OBJ, and then Export. Once your model is done downloading, make sure to extract the zip, and then open Blender. I've created a template file for you to use to make positioning and scaling easier. I've provided it in the description. In the template, there are 3 objects, 2 heads and a hair model. The head on the bottom is the one you will use for aligning hats, and the head on the top is the one you will use for aligning hairs. The hair you will use as a reference for the direction the hats and hairs should be facing. In Blender, go to File, Import, and then Wavefront OBJ. Once the importer window opens, go to the right side and change the scale to 0.0098 and make sure the forward axis is Z and the up axis is Y. Then import the model you exported from Mechabricks. The hair model I imported is too low, so I need to make sure that the model is selected and press G to move it, then press Z to move it specifically up and down or along the Z axis. To align the hair with the top of the head, I will hide the template hair, enter X-ray mode by pressing Alt-Z, and then zoom in to make sure that the lowest part of the hole in the hair is at the same height as the lowest part of the hole on the head. I changed the color of the hair to make it more noticeable, but you may have noticed in your model that it has a lot of hard edges, whereas it appeared smooth in Mechabricks. We can fix this by clicking on the Data tab on the right, which is the green triangle, then scrolling down to the Attributes menu, clicking on Sharp Face, and pressing the minus button to remove the attribute. Now it has the correct sharp edges that it had in Mechabricks. The next step is to give the model a UV map, as the model will not convert properly if it does not have a UV map. If you do not plan on giving your model a texture, then you don't have to worry about unwrapping it. You can just click the plus icon in the UV Maps menu, and you're good to go. If you are planning on giving your model a texture, then don't worry, because I will go over how to do that later. Although I won't be teaching you how to do UV unwrapping, but there are plenty of tutorials on that. Next, go to the Materials tab, which is the red ball icon right underneath the Data tab, and click the minus icon at the top to delete the material, since we don't need it. The next step is a strange one, but not a hard one. For some reason, LEGO Batman 2 flips the hat and hair models along the x-axis, meaning that the hair will look mirrored if you just put it in the game like this. So we need to go to the Transforms menu. If you do not see this menu, press the N key while your cursor is over the 3D viewport and it will appear. Then invert the x-axis by double-clicking on it and making it negative. If we were to export this right now, then the hair would be inside out, causing it to look transparent blue. This is because we flipped the model, which technically put the inside faces on the outside. So we need to fix that by selecting the object, pressing Ctrl A, and then clicking All Transforms. You should see that the location, rotation, and scale information have been reset to 0, 0, and 1. This will fix the issue of the model being inside out. Some hair models might have a small gap in between the hair and the head. You can fix this by slightly changing the scale by pressing S and then typing 0.98, and that makes it about the right size. Alternatively, you could make the scale 0.009604 before importing your model and it will have the same effect. Now we're ready to export. With only your hat or hair model selected, click on File, then go to Export, and do Stanford PLY. Choose where you'd like to export your file to. I export mine to a folder called PLY in the same folder as the converter tool to keep it organized. Now you need to change the exporter settings to make sure the conversion works. Make sure ASCII format is checked along with selection only, and make sure the scale is set to 1, with forward axis as -Z and up axis as Y, and have all the boxes under geometry checked with vertex colors set to none. I recommend clicking the plus up here to create a new preset for this so that you don't have to remember this for next time. Once you've got these settings correct, you can change the name of your file and click Export PLY. Now you need to navigate to the folder of the GSC Generate tool and click on the model copier.exe. Once it's open, you'll need to choose a default string for the model. This is just the name of the model, so whatever you plan to name the converted file should match the default string. I'll name this Hair Morales, and the converted file name will be hair_Morales. The only difference being that the file is in all caps, since all the original hat and hair files are in all caps. The GSC code is not important, so you can really just type whatever here. I'll just type Morales. Now we need to select our PLY file. Once you've selected it, you should get this pop-up saying success, or at least it says success in Portuguese. It is also telling you that it copied the file to get ready for the conversion. You can click OK to close this. Next, since I'm not using a texture, I will uncheck the texture box. Now all that's left is to generate the GSC, so I will click this button. It will bring up a File Explorer window and you can choose the name of the file. It should follow this format: hair, or hat, depending on which one you are making, underscore, then the name you gave the default string, another underscore, and then NXG. All of this should be capital letters. Make sure it ends in .gsc and then click save. It will take a moment, but then you should see this success pop up. You can click OK to close it, and then go to the converter file location again, and go to the LEGO Star Wars 3 custom model files folder, and your GSC file will be in there. Copy or move the file to the respective hair or hat folder in the Super Characters folder within LEGO Batman 2. Now you need to open the CD file of the character you'd like to give this hair or hat to. Scroll down to the hair or hat entry and replace the file name with the name of your new one. I'm using Dick Grayson as an example, so I will replace hair underscore comb over with hair underscore Morales. Since I have one letter I didn't overwrite, I can just replace that byte with 00 to remove it. Now I can save this file and go to LEGO Batman 2 to see the new hair in-game. Now I'll show you how to put a hat with a texture in the game. The process is the same, but we need to UV unwrap the model and supply the converter with a texture. If we go back into Blender, we need to hide our hair model and switch the visible head to the head hat object. All you need to do is make sure you align the hat with this head instead of the head hair object, just like we did before. Once you have it aligned and you've done all the steps from before, you can give it a material temporarily so that you can see what the texture will look like in game. We'll add a material in the Material tab, and to give it a texture, we'll scroll down to the base color, click on the yellow dot, and then go to Image Texture. Then we'll select the texture we want to use, which needs to be in the DDS image format. When you're satisfied with how it looks, you can export the model just like we did earlier. But before you convert the model, you need to mirror the texture vertically, because for some reason, LEGO Batman 2 also does that. Once you've mirrored the texture vertically, you can go back to the GSC Generate tool and do everything like normal, but make sure the texture box is selected this time and select your DDS texture file. Then you can generate the GSC. Once you've done all that and put your GSC file in the correct folder, you can give it to the character you want to have it. I'll be using Scarecrow for this example. So I'll scroll down to the hat entry and change the given file name from hat scarecrow to what I name my custom hat, which is hat underscore Batman66. If I save this now and test it in game, you'll see that the hat is not the correct color. This is because we are still defining the color up here for the hat to use. In my previous tutorial, I went over how to change these colors, but for now, all we need to do is change it to white. We can do this by moving to the beginning of the color and replacing it with 000080 3F 000080 3F 000080 3F. Now we can save the file and see that the texture is showing as it is supposed to. So anytime you give a character a hat or hair with a texture, make sure the color is set to white. Hopefully I covered everything you needed to know about making custom hats and hairs in this video. If not, please let me know and I'll do my best to teach you next time. Bye!